made us sign our name as black or color, and then it went from black and color to fucking Africa, you know. So there's a whole racial identification, modification that they have definitely done. They did the same thing to the Chinese. They made the Chinese register themselves as Indians. You know, they made a bunch of Caucasian people coming from Europe and Germany or whatever the case may be and made them register as Jews, and they weren't. So there's definitely a lot of mixed heritage, and a lot of people don't know what their authenticity and heritage is. But the root of this whole thing is that a lot of people who does the DNA, you know, the DNA results that you send in, you get your DNA and you find out your history and stuff like that. A lot of people do their results. They say they compare a lot of Americans' blood to the African people blood, and they don't match. We don't match them at all. What they do is they give you the close proximity of the blood type and compare them to African bloods. But in terms of a straight match, there's no straight match. A lot of American people, our bloods do not match the African Black people bloods. Those are facts. Now, if you go back further and further, you probably find some kind of similarity. But in general perspective and authentic perspective, a lot of our blood don't match African bloods. So a lot of us Black people are literally Black indigenous people to this place. We are not Africans. We're Black Americans. You know, let's point that out. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out here. Let me just continue on with the story. Sorry for interrupting. Enjoy.
You were talking about for the 40-day journey. I mean, it took 40 days. Do we know if on this particular ship, all of them made it to the U.S. alive?
Well, you took the words out of my mouth of what I was going to say next, Charles. You mentioned about 110 people arriving, and the rough math is that from 10 to 15% of those who were taken aboard did not make it. Their bodies thrown overboard. So you have to figure at least 10, 15% maybe did not make it. And the usual breakdown of the slave trade was that about 2/3 were males, just because they needed the males for the fields, for the cotton, and the women were kept for housework and also, quite frankly, Charles, for breeding purposes. And what we also know is that, local legend says that this trip was made as kind of like a bet, Charles, because the slave trade was outlawed in 1808. But you still have smuggling going on to the south up until 1860, the beginning of the Civil War. And a local wealthy businessman bet that he could finance a schooner to travel to Benin and get 100 slaves and bring them back safely. And that's what happened. And when the captain returned, he tried to destroy the evidence by burning the ship. The problem, Charles, was this: only the top part burned, only the mast burned. The rest of it sunk intact. And after the Civil War, 32 of those survivors of that slave ship, they asked the master, now they were freed for land. He refused to give it to them. They had to buy it from him, and they bought it from him by pledging continued work in those fields. And that's how the sharecropper system started, Charles.
Absolutely amazing story. And I wonder, Carl, if the researchers, I think you touched on this peripherally at the outset, but I wonder if the researchers have spoken to some of those who believe that they are relatives of the people on the ship. And if so, how do they feel about this process and about that connection to history? Because in many ways, beyond the science and the history of this, it is a people's story, isn't it?
Charles, not only is it a people's story, it's also a living history. As I mentioned, the immediate survivors of that slave ship after the Civil War, they tried to buy their own land. About 32 set up a community that's now been called Africatown, Charles, outside of Mobile. It's a population of about 3,000 people, at its peak 10,000 people. Direct descendants of that slave ship. The oldest living survivor, who was actually a local chief, Charles, he died in 1932, I believe, and another woman in 1937. Charles, they still spoke the dialect from the region. They still spoke the Yoruba language, if you can believe that, up until the 1930s. That was preserved. So those descendants now, you're talking 6 generations worth. In an ideal world, they would love to see the wreckage excavated. But they're also saying this. They're saying that we must show that this is the kind of evil that persisted up until the Civil War, evil that no one should be allowed to forget. And that's what's really the most amazing thing, because at the end of the Civil War, Charles, you had 4 million slaves who were all of a sudden free. 4 million slaves who were the product of that slave trade. You think about that number, Charles, you're talking tens of thousands of voyages. This was only one ship with only 100 people on it, some ships carrying as many as 700 people, basically lying head to toe like stacks of cordwood, being unable to even sit upright without bumping their head, and only being allowed to go upstairs for air because, again, Charles, this was cargo that had to be reserved because they had to be sold on the market as healthy slaves.
Yes, and we've got about less than a couple of minutes actually left, Carl. Archaeologists are trying to take DNA off some of the possessions found on that ship and seeing if those DNA molecules can be tracked down to people who are alive in the US today. You talked about survivors right up to the 1930s, but obviously a lot of others kind of disappeared. I mean, the hope is that the DNA from the people on board can be found. How's that going to work? We've got less than a minute.
Well, Charles, you still have this community called Africatown that still exists outside of Mobile, about 3,000 people. You have an active Clotilda Descendants Association that's weighing in, that's being consulted by the state about what to do next in terms of extracting DNA. So this will only basically prove what people already know right there in terms of their connection with it. But we'll also know about where they came from, what part of West Africa. That's what's really fascinating, Charles. And also, finally, there's a documentary coming out called Descendant that'll premiere the Sundance Festival in Colorado in January. So about the story of the descendants who live in Alabama. So this is an active story, and we'll find out more in March when they begin an excavation, a targeted one, of the DNA from the wood of that ship, from that cargo hold. Back.
Did you know that in 2019, the last known slave ship was found in a desolate area docked in the Mobile River? Well, if you did not, my name is Shanti, and I'm about to learn you something in these next 3 minutes that might actually blow your mind. I know it blew mine. There's been a lot of argument in my comments lately about the validity of the transatlantic slave trade. Now, people do raise a really great point in asking, why aren't there any evidence of actual slave ships? Well, according to Dr. Delgado, which is a well-known archaeologist who played a part in the rediscovery of the Clotilda, the story goes that in 1855, slave trader Timothy Mayer made a bet that he could successfully purchase Africans and bring them to the United States of America. Well after the slave trade had been constitutionally made illegal, January the 1st, 1808. Timothy Mayer enlisted the help of his good friend, Captain William Foster. Now, this is important because years before the rediscovery of the Clotilda, the journals of William Foster were discovered where he wrote about the Clotilda in that last voyage. In those same journals, Foster wrote about the journey to Dahomey, meeting with their king who had over 4,000 slaves held captive and purchasing approximately 115 Africans. After that purchase of African human beings, they began their journey back to Mobile, Alabama, where that ship was docked at the Mobile Bay and destroyed, or so they thought. Now, what I find to be extremely interesting is that the Clotilda was never actually lost or destroyed. It was just hidden in plain sight. The lengths in which they went to attempt to destroy this piece of historical evidence does not surprise me. If they keep us in the dark, if we do not know who we are, if we do not know where we came from, then we will never know where we are going. African Americans, it is our responsibility to the future generations to learn and to teach the truth. Slavery is absolutely nothing to be embarrassed about. It was an interruption of our history. It is the proof of our resilience and determination. Our ancestors are survivors. We are the descendants of greatness. In part 2, we'll discuss Zora Neale Hurston and her interview with the Clotilda's last survivor, Cujo Lewis. I will not be silenced. I will not be shut up or shut down. If this content interests you in any way, I invite you to like, comment, share, get this information out there. They are trying to disconnect us from our true history. They are attempting to rewrite our history in front of our very eyes. I won't allow it.
She is so right. Aside from the fact that she was talking very low, so if you had to turn up your volume, that was a good thing because she was talking. They're trying to erase our true history. Yes, please listen, everyone. So she was talking like, I don't know if she was raised to talk like that or that's how she naturally talked. I have no idea. But anyway. Oh, hey, Queen. How you doing? I'm getting a lot of Queen people coming to the show. Welcome to the Truth Show. Welcome to the Truth Show. Make sure you guys share. Okay, now listen. All right, because I do have more for you guys. Now, I'm not even sure any of you even heard of Clotilda. Okay, that's probably something that they definitely don't broadcast in many places, which I'm not surprised. Okay, because they just are like that. So let's talk about the dehumanizing myths, no soul, no compassion, since that's what they did a lot during the slavery times. Okay, and this is an adjacent to the Clotilda story. Now, because it was definitely false narratives that were used to justify cruelty. Now, a person throughout history used myths to justify cruelty. One of those myths, they claimed that certain beings, Neanderthals, or even whole groups of people, had no soul. So in Neanderthals, you have to understand, were a group of people that were non-melanated. They have a lot of melanin. They only thrive in cold weather. Just like melanated people, we thrive in hot weather. We become very enlightened. We become very intelligent. So please, my people, embrace the heat. Embrace the sun. The sun is shining this way because it helps us remember things. It helps literally revitalize our entire biosystem. It gives us energy. It gives us enlightenment. If you can get over the heating part and embrace the rays of the sun in your real hair, not them lace wigs that you glue on your freaking head, let your hair feel the sun. I guarantee you guys, I guarantee you it'll be beautiful. So please, please, I tell you, embrace the sun. Okay, those are for melanated people. However, Neanderthals are non-melanated people. They're the ones who thrives in cold climates. They get their energy and strength and things of that nature from cold weather. The sun burns them and kills them. So that's the difference between melanated people. Melanated people get darker in the sun. Their hair grows in the sun. They get invigorated from the sun. Non-melanated people, they just turn red like a lobster and they just die. Okay, now, non-melanated people, considering a lot of their biochemicals they call them human, which are Homo sapiens. They call melanated people Homo sapiens. They call them more human because we relate to more of the earth climate, like the soil and the trees, how they grow from the sun and the water and the nutrients of the world and the sun. And humans, the Homo sapiens who have melanin, they grow from that as well. So that's why they relate them to that kind of DNA and organisms of people. But the myth of dehumanization. Now, the slave masters, they flipped a lot of things back in the day. They made people who were of human status feel like they weren't, just to justify their cruelty. And the Neanderthals were called no-soul people because they lacked compassion. They didn't have compassion. Anyone who has a soul, they say, soul meaning your DNA is made of earth elements. If you are made from earth elements, there's no way impossible you can be so cruel to people. So that's why why I didn't know what else to say. I mean, that's literally what it is. Well, yeah, get your pens and paper, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, class has commenced. Let me quit. Okay, but listen, but for real, there was no compassion. Okay, so for them to be so cruel, it's now here's the thing: all Caucasian people aren't cruel. Now, the purebred Caucasian people who are purebred Neanderthals, I mean, just pure breed Neanderthals, they may be, yeah, they probably don't have a soul, because if you have a soul, no way you can be this cruel. Now, people think souls are just battery powered things to keep people functioning. Yeah, that's a little bit element of it, but I say the spirit is the battery, the soul is the memory and the lessons and everything else. So if you non-soulless, you don't have a heart. That's what I feel. At least that's what I studied, but it's just my interpretation. So anyone who are purebred Neanderthals who are from cold climates and they're saying they pretty much are DNA descendants from animals, like, monkeys and, animals. No, first of all animals are not soulless, but, animals who are not soulless, they are purebred Caucasians. They are told to be Neanderthals, who they call them, are the cruelest people. A purebred, depending on how they were raised. If they were raised to not be cruel and it's been instilled in them to have fairness and treat everyone based on their character and not the contents of their skin or the color of the skin, then they're fine. It's all about how they're raised. But most of them, rudely, the purebred Caucasians, not the ones who's been integrated and soiled or whatever, integrated with black people, so they got a little black people and melanin in their blood, maybe not a lot, but some compassion, some soul in there. If they have a little melanin in them, now I'm talking about purebred Caucasians, they are real evil. If they have not been taught, they're evil as hell. Killing is second nature. They don't give a shit. Seriously. They just evil. They're not even evil just toward melanated people. They're evil toward anybody. It don't matter if you're melanated or not. They're just evil SOBs. Okay. But they got to stay in cold climates. The heat will piss them off. They hate heat. And they will turn into a lobster and they will die. So here's the thing. So yeah, the purebred Neanderthals, the Caucasians who are purebred, those are the ones that more than likely were breeding like crazy back during slavery times in the early parts of the Jim Crow days. They were more of descendants of that. Since then, there's been so much integrating and things of that nature among the races. So a lot of people are mixed with a lot of stuff, and a lot of people are learning their lesson. They've been taught compassion. You can't be taught compassion. So therefore, a lot of that racist stuff is really starting to taper off and descend off, which is a great thing. But let me just say this here. So Neanderthals are the ones who are being called no soul people. But during slavery, they switched it and they called, here's the thing, they called black people no human because they felt that we was lower than what their standard was. But the root cause of it, because they thought we were aliens and we didn't feel pain and they just thought we weren't human. Not only because they thought we was just dirt beneath their fucking feet, which is a whole nother historical lesson, but it's because they really thought we weren't human. They really thought we was subhuman and we didn't feel pain and we were just not like him. The sun didn't do anything to us. Our strength is out of nowhere. Our intelligence. They just thought we were just really weird and different. In their eyes, that's what they thought. Okay? And they lied, when they said that we were less human. And with that lie, they treated enslaved black people, Africans, and indigenous people to America, not as humans, but as prey, as property, as stepping stones for their own achievements. They switched a lot of things. They said that black people was messy and stinky and and dummies and things of that nature. That's not true. Just flip it around. A lot of people thought they were stinky, and they just switched it around because that's what people do. Okay, so here's the truth about all of that. Okay. The cruelty came from the oppressors. Please remember that cruelty came from the oppressors. They deny humanity, not from the oppressed that lacking. They just deny humanity. But here's the truth. Compassion and soul are a universe. The cruelty of slavery did not come from the oppressed lacking souls. It came from the oppressors denying them. It was a deliberate narrative to dehumanization designed to conquer, claim, and kill without guilt. So they, from the basic perspective, they wanted to be able to kill and do their barbaric things without feeling guilt of why they were doing it. And, and them doing it in general. But it has been said that purebred Caucasians, Neanderthals, are of lack of compassion because of their originality and roots of their DNA. But again, the speculation hypothesis varies on individuals and their upbringing. So they can be purebred Caucasian Neanderthals and be taught compassion. Even though they may not have a soul, they can be taught compassion and maybe they can grow a soul. Who knows? Just like the TV series Lucifer. Remember May, she was a demon and she was upset that she have a soul, but she ended up growing one. Who knows? Okay, I know that's a fiction story, but a lot of its stories based on true stories and historical references. Okay, now let's expose this new age here. Why and how does this Clotilda story and Neanderthal and Homo sapiens and things of nature, how does it tie into this whole new age here? Well, I mean, if we connect the discovery of Clotilda wreckage on the larger theme of Revelation, that's the book of Revelation, and now in this new age of authenticity, those lies in collapse. What was done in the dark is exposed. We are in the middle of the transition of Aquarius, so a lot of things is done in the dark is definitely coming to the light. Okay. So yes, Clotilda record was found. The stories of those enslaved are being told. The veil of deceit is gone, meaning trying to hide something in this new age would not work. We all see clearer, and the more we wake up, the better it gets. So the more you wake up and the more you realize you can manifest your own heaven. Heaven is not a physical place. It's a dimensional place. It's a conscious place. And once you realize that, everything will manifest in your favor that you want. But you have to realize that you can make it happen yourself and not look to some divine, unknown, unproven entity to do it for you. That's basically what it is. And this new age is breaking the veil. This new age is seeing thing authenticity. But you get people who are scared of seeing this clearly, and it scares them, and they go back to comfort, which is bowing their knees, bowing their heads, and praying to the divine identity that was made up, that was forced into people by slave owners and their parents, whether it's black, white, green, whatever. A lot of them was forced to believe in this religion. They were forced to believe in Yeshua, Jesus, and God. They didn't have the option to study for themselves and choose. And that goes with any race. When you realize that that book is just a political tool to keep people in line. It was literally a rule book and a political agenda for ordinance, obedience, and submissiveness. That's literally what that book was. Literally. Something we need to stop following. Take a look at these clips. A lot of you have seen these clips several times, but I'm playing them again. So listen to them. As you all know, we are in a transition to a new age of Aquarius, air and east, Leo, fire and south, Taurus, earth and north, and Scorpio, water and west. From the last ages of Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius. This indicates that the influence and strength of these new age signs are just beginning to manifest. The impact of the previous signs was equally potent. The infatuation, hence celebrities and people of these signs, and the praises, hence Christianity, that came out during the age of Pisces. And the loyalty of these signs were insane. I was particularly caught up in the influence of the top signs of Pisces and Virgo, especially during my time as a devoted Christian. All my exes, and there weren't many, they were of older age. Yes, one Gemini, my husband, and one Pisces. I was obsessed with him. I craved him. And Sagittarius was among my exes. When I started to become more spiritual, the infatuation and idolatry veil faded, and I was able to see all of them clearly. Imagine the pain Cassie, a Virgo, must have felt knowing that signs alike, such as Beyonce and Michael Jackson, who are also Virgos, continue to receive worship. They were being idolized like gods and goddesses. Still are, kind of. Thanks to the time glitches and manipulation after the election, many of us felt it, like something definitely shift. Hell, poor Cassie was preyed on like a sex object. Diddy was obsessed. He craved her blood, urine, everything. Rihanna is a Pisces. Men craved her and still do, and worship her. She has achieved such enormous success that she is now a billionaire without school training or years of mastering her craft of femti. Kanye and Donald Trump, who are both Geminis, had many flaws that are overlooked for so many years until now. Heck, they became billionaires despite all their shit. Now, we are in the dawn of this new age of Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. The people of these zodiac signs, dead or alive, are being worshipped again. Especially the top two signs, Aquarius and Leo. just like the passing age was Pisces and Virgo. They were all and will be worshipped. Alicia Keys is an Aquarius. Her songs are being played on heavy rotation again. So is Megan Thee Stallion, despite all the legal crap that she's going through. I would say more, but Aquarians love their solitude and privacy. They don't care for the spotlight. The Leo signs are Meghan Markle, Jennifer Lopez, Barack Obama, Sandra Bullock, Lawrence Fishburne, Vivica Fox, Michael Ealy, D.B. Woodside, Megan Good, Viola Davis, Mila Kunis, Halle Berry, and the list goes on. They will be worshipped like the passing age of Virgo, primarily because Aquarians don't care for it. Malcolm X, pioneer, civil rights activist, gave his life in revealing the truth to his people. He was a Taurus. His teachings are being recovered and preached again. Not to mention the Scorpios, who are Ryan Reynolds, Drake, Sierra, Frank Ocean, Julia Roberts, Winona Ryder, Gabrielle Union, Tracy Ellis Ross, Willow Smith, Kendall Jenner, Matthew McConaughey, and so on. All signs are making a comeback after the last roller coaster of hits and misses and emotional hell in the previous 5 to 10 years. Trust me, I know. But please note, if they built their success and their achievements based on lies, manipulation, and deceit, they will crumble within this new age of innovation and the truth. They will not succeed. They will forever hit roadblocks because they're not authentic. This is the age of authenticity and truth. If you're not one of the other or both, you will crumble. Now, however, the sign that will be affected the most is Aquarius. They will be worshipped like Christianity and Jesus in the age of Pisces, which sucks because they love their solitude. So the opposite sign, Leo, will pick up that spotlight for them and won't mind it, okay? And of course, right along with Scorpio and Taurus. But Leo would be hit the most, almost as equivalent to their opposite sign, Aquarius. Oh, yes. Just like the passing age, Pisces, and opposite sign, Virgo, was hit. Yeah, they would be hit. Leos would be hit just as the same. Oh, and quick note, look out for energy vampires. They would try and steal your essence. Meditate more and carry obsidian crystals. They're good for blocking negative energies. To be continued. Don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, and share. Thanks.
Let's talk. I see a lot of people, especially Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio especially, have been feeling different. Not broken, not lost, just different. Here's the simple truth. We're in a collective shift, not cosmic magic, a mindset awakening. People are waking up to themselves. Old beliefs don't fit. Old relationships feel heavy. Old identities feel too small. Aquarius feels the mental shift. Leo feels the identity shift. Taurus feels the value shift. Scorpio feels the emotional shift. If you feel detached, it's not coldness, it's boundaries. If you feel confused, it's not danger, it's growth. If you feel called to something bigger, it's your purpose activating. You're not changing, you're becoming aware, and you're right on time.
All right, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, you see, you have to understand here the power of your words. We are in the age of spirituality, so that when the veil is broken, that means your words will have a lot of significant power. You can say stuff and it will literally come into manifestation, especially if you say it too much. So your words will have seeds, and in this age, every seed grows into visible outcomes. See, this is the age where words carry power. Authenticity is the currency, where every soul is seen, every truth is revealed, the myth of soullessness dissolve and the reality of human dignity shines through, which means you have to be careful what you say. I say that what you feed the most is what you manifest. So if you're always worrying about certain things, you'll get it. So try to retrain your brain to be obsessed with stuff that you want so you can manifest it and manifest how to get it, opportunities, and how to achieve it, and then do it. That's literally in the age we are in right now. So if you wish for a certain someone to, you know what, you might want to say it and not ask a certain God to do it, because you ask the God, it's not going to happen. Okay. You have to ask the goddess. Okay. Or just say you want it. Make it come into manifestation. The words that you say are definitely coming to manifestation. You have to be careful what you say these days. I mean, I'm telling you, this age is different. It's not like other age where you're so brainwashed by the churches, brainwashed the regime and conformality. We're in the age where your words are very powerful. Okay. Also, the truth and soul of what's going on here. Okay. So when we speak, we manifest. When we speak, we manifest. Okay. When we wish, we must be intentional. Because in this new age, our words don't just echo, they create and they reveal. The old age protected cruelty with illusion, but the new age demands authenticity, which means a lot of stuff won't just go by people's heads. They'd be like, that's fake. Just like with the not Trump's, but Mitch McConnell photograph. Everyone knew off the back that was fake. Now, this was back like 5 or 10 years ago. We probably would have thought it was real because we was all brainwashed and stupid. Now we look back at a lot of those historical photos too of things being made, and they say these old buildings. We can honestly say that some of those photos are seriously edited, and they are edited. So, but in this age of authenticity, the truth of every soul cannot be denied. The truth of every lie would definitely be exposed. I don't care how badly they try to cover it up. It will be exposed. You must just be authentic. Trying to be fake and trying to portray yourself as this fake goddess or fake god or something is not going to buy. Trying to do the same polar tricks and stuff on stage or whatever the case may be, or in front of television cameras, you're going to be exposed for that bullshit. Okay. But let me just sum it up here. Okay. I'm just going to sum it up for you guys because I think you guys need to understand this. Okay. Okay. Here's what you guys need to know. The Clotilda was the last seen slave ship to bring enslaved Africans to the U.S. in 1860. The last visible one we can actually see. Okay. Apparently, all the hundreds and hundreds of slave ships that transported slaves I guess they just disappeared or burnt up. I don't know. The story is really stupid. And they lie a lot. And they don't want you to do DNAs because then they'll probably be exposed about that whole bullshit ass lie too. Now, its story is one of their secrecy, exploitations, and eventual exposure and literal example what is done in the dark comes to the light. See, the myth about certain groups like Neanderthals or others like souls is not significantly true. I mean, they haven't proven it was true, but history basically said it is true. But historically similar, dehumanizing, I was going to say humanization, beliefs were used to justify slavery and oppression. Slave holders and colonizers often spread the idea that Africans had indigenous people were less than human to rationalize, treating them as property, prey, and obstacles. Okay. Why does this matter? These myths weren't about truth. They were about control. By stripping people of humanity, in narrative oppressors could conquer, claim, and kill without guilt, which is why they did it. In reality, compassion and soul are universal. Human traits. The cruelty of slavery came not from lack of soul in the oppressed or during the oppressed, but from the deliberate denial of soul by the oppressors. So they said we didn't have a soul, so they can feel better about the cruelty they were doing to us. Like there's no gift there because they don't have a soul either. They're not even human. That's what they tried to convince themselves. You know, that the reason why they were so cruel to our ancestors is because we're not human. They had did a lot of projecting back in those days, you know, a lot of projecting. Seriously, they saw us prey, they saw us property. To them, we didn't have the reason to live. We was just Nothing to these people. The ancestors was cruel. The amount of cruelty they did to our ancestors back then goes beyond words. I'm surprised we're actually among them and want to be among their descendants after everything they've done. But in this new age of authenticity, those lies and myths are collapsing. The veil of deceit is done. The truth about Clotilda, about slavery, about systematic dehumanization is being revealed and exposed. I mean, you gotta understand, they saw us prey, you guys. They saw us as prey. They said we didn't have a soul. They did a lot of projecting back then. Okay? A lot of fucking projecting. They really did. So the Neanderthals weren't soulless. That's a myth. But yes, enslaved and colonized people were treated horribly because oppressors choose to see them as less than human, as prey, as stepping stones. The false narrative is exactly what the new age is unraveling right now. Okay? And that's it. Thank you guys for staying throughout the duration of this live show. I want it to be quick. I hope you learned some things. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave below, which I'm sure you won't because hardly anyone comments anyway. But anyways, you guys have a wonderful night. Bye. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Hey, Truth Seekers. I'm opening a limited number of prepaid reading bundles for anyone who wants deeper clarity and ongoing spiritual guidance. You can get 2 general readings for $100 or 3 readings for $150. You save a total of $30. Each session is 1 to 1.5 hours, includes mediumship, and goes deep into your questions, your energy, and your loved one's messages. If you want consistent guidance and real answers, DM me to reserve your bundle or email me at keishasreadings@gmail.com or at thetruthshowchat@gmail.com. Can't wait to speak to you.